Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to lesson 2.2, which is the human resource planning. So, in this lesson, as an overview, what is the benefit of an organization to human resource? So, to answer that, organizations benefit from human resource planning because it enables them to make sure that the right quantity and quality of manpower are available at the exact time and place that they are needed. For our objectives, today we will be talking about the different techniques used in manpower planning and forecasting. So, what would likely happen if a company would hire too few or too many employees? So, what do you think, class? Some of you have said that too many employees will be costly. Many employees will not be productive, and if there will be shortage of employees, there will be a lot of problems, backlogs in the workplace. So, human resource planning answers the following questions. First is, what new technologies are emerging and how will this affect the work system? So, human resource planning begins with this question. Why? It is because technologies nowadays affects human resource. With lots of technology, we are not supposed to hire a lot of workforce. And another question is that what is the volume of the business likely to be in the next 5 to 10 years? So this is to determine how much to hire or how intensive the trainings they should provide for the rest of the years. This is to capacitate the employees in terms of or in cases of turnover. So, what is turnover rate, class? So, do you have an idea? Some of you have answered no, they don't have an idea of what is turnover. So, actually, class, turnover is the rate of or unsa ka paspas how your company or how the organization exchanges employees or nagtatanggal ng employee, gaano kabilis sila nagtatanggal ng employee at nagpapalit. So how much if any is it avoidable? So unsa man ang turnover, maayo ba na or dili? High turnover means higher cost, of course, because higher turnover means invest na pod ka og time for training. And of course, if taas ang imong turnover, taas pod ang change sa imuhang company. So, high turnover rate should be avoided. So, the human resource should be planning about this in cases of death or retirement. So, di na siya nato malikayan. Another questions to be addressed is or are, how many senior managers will we need during this time period? So, the answers to this question will help the organization human resource in planning. So, the first question is relevant, of course, to the salaries expenses. Then the second question, which is what types of engineers will we need and how many? So, this is relevant to the skills needed or the amount of training to be employed and the numbers of employees needed to be hired. As to the third question, so are the persons with adequate computer skills available for meeting our projected needs? So, for example, if forecasting suggests a need for more technically trained individuals, the organization can define the jobs and skills needed, hire and train recruiters, and also provide new training for existing employees. By anticipating future human resource needs, the organization can prepare itself to meet competitive challenges, and these competitive challenges can be dealt with more effectively, no? Then the organization that then if they will just react to the problems as they arise. So mas maayong giandaman. So in human resource planning or HRP, this is also known as manpower planning, workforce planning, and employment planning. So this is the process of deciding what positions that organization should fill and how to fill them. So the human resource planning is undertaken to make sure that there will be right quantity and quality, no, of manpower which are available at the exact time and place that they are needed. So this will enable the organization to function effectively and efficiently, no, by providing various departments the manpower they need. It is through, of course, the policies that the HR is planning or that the HR is establishing. This is by identifying and acquiring the right number of people with the appropriate skills. So, the human resource planning, this involves motivating employees also, class. This is to achieve high performance and create links between the organization's objectives with the HR planning activities. So when we say motivating employees, this includes the plan on their bonuses or compensation, or like bisan man lang ang appreciation or recognition for the employee of the month. So these are included in their planning. All right, to continue, class, in forecasting personal needs or labor demand, so demand forecasting is defined as the process of estimating the future quantity and quality of people needed or required in an organization. So the basis of the forecast must be the annual budget, of course, and the long-term corporate plan. So every plan in the human resource management or department must be, of course, coinciding with the long-term corporate plan. So this is translated into the activity levels for each department. And for this department, this is the human resource management department. So they must all coincide. So the budget, the long-term corporate plan, and the activity levels sa atoang HR department. So demand forecasting helps to prevent shortage of people, determine the staff mix in the future, and assess appropriate staffing levels in different departments of the organization to avoid unnecessary costs. So, that is the main purpose, to avoid unnecessary costs. So, si labor demand and labor supply must meet. Our labor demand, ito yung needed nating demand sa organization. Well, the labor supply, this is the amount or the supply of workforce that we supply in an organization. So to continue, what are the methods of HR demand forecasting? So there are two types of methods, a judgmental method and the mathematical method. So forecasting appears to be more systematic if there is a database, no, and an expert who can use the more sophisticated model in forecasting. So that is, of course, via mathematical method. However, if the organization class is small, forecasts are made based on the opinion or judgment or the knowledge or the knowledgeable people that we have. So first, class, an example of a judgmental method is the bottom-up or the unit forecasting. So this happens, class, when the individual units, like for example the branches or departments, and for our unit, the HR, makes a forecast of their manpower requirements. So, in kaso nga dili HR ang department. Example, we are into assembly line ng usa ka sakyanan. And then, kada line is usa ka spare part sa usa ka sakyanan. And then, sa bottom-up forecasting, ang usa ka unit ngadto sa ubos, they are the one to suggest sa mga managers up in the organizational scale, sila ang mo suggest unsa kadaghan ng tao nga ilang kinahanglan. That is bottom-up. For the top-down approach, this is the method that involves top management in making labor forecast for the entire organization. So, ang mga manager sa taas ang magbuot unsa kadaghan ang i-hire So this involves the executives, no, who meet together to discuss how internal and external factors affect the demand for human resource at various levels in the organization. While in the Delphi technique class, this is a qualitative forecasting method, no? This seeks the help of experts. So that's the only thing that you have to remember in using Delphi technique. We use the help of experts in forecasting demand for human resource. So in Delphi technique, this could include utilizing a series of questionnaires to be administered by a person to experts who never meet face to face. So, as the respondents reply, their answers are summarized and new questionnaire is developed and sent to them. So, this process is repeated until a group forecast is derived. So, ang kilain lang ni Delphi technique, we seek the help of experts. So, to continue, the other type of forecasting is the mathematical method. So, first is the trend analysis. So, this means studying variation in the firm's employment levels over the last few years. So, for example, class, you might compute the number of employees at the end of each, at the last 5 years, or perhaps the number in each subgroup, like sales for the past 5 years or the production. So, the aim is to identify trends. Example, sa ingon ani nga sales, from the past 5 years, nagsaka ang sales. So, unsa ang trend? Pila ka percent ang increase per year? Uh, if atong relative sa ato ang manpower, pila ka buok ang na-increase kada year. So, tan-awan nimo ang trend. So, you will base ang imuhang hiring, pila ka buok ang i-hire ang quantity sa trend analysis nga imong gikandak. So, trend analysis can provide an initial estimate of future staffing needs. But employment levels are rarely depend just on the passage of time, of course. So, carefully studying the firm's historical and current workforce demographics and voluntary withdrawals, this can help reveal impending or approaching labor force needs. So, that is for our trend analysis. So, next class is the use of sales, production, and other forecasts. So, this method uses a technique that involves studying past ratio. So, imo siya i-ratio and proportion. So, if nag-study mo sa inyong algebra, connected siya dire, and then para sa mga review at the same time, para makitaan how do we apply mathematical equations in business. So, another to one application is the ratio and proportion. So, let's say class, between the number of workers and sales in the organization, we will forecast future ratios, making some allowances for changes in the organization. Like, halimbawa, ang ato ang production is 1:3. Tulo ka output, usa ka tao ang imong i-hire. So, next month, how much will you hire if you will be, the volume of your production will be times 10, no? So, ingon anaon ang pag-ratio and proportion.
Okay, so as an example class, sa ato ang ratio and proportion, example of the given is that nakay total number of units sold last year of 1,000. And then last year, ang imuhang number of salesperson na equivalent to 1,000 units sold is 10 salespersons. Then karong tuiga imo gi-expect or your forecast is about naakay 1,500 nga sales nga taliabot. So ang pangutana, no, how many salesperson will be needed this succeeding year, or how many person or salesperson will you hire? So how do we compute this? So ingon ani na siya pag compute class. Ah, example naa kay 1,000 units. Ingon ani pag ratio and proportion, no? So, 1,000 units, equivalent na siya sa 10 salesperson, no? 10 salesperson. Person. And then, ang pangutana, so, ano na siya, is 2, no? 1,000 unit is to 10 salesperson. Na kay 1,500 this year, units, is to how many, no? So, waka kahibaw, X. So, when you do ratio and proportion in algebra, basically, mauna siya ang concept. Imo siyang butang unsa ang katumbas. So, ano yung katumbas? Ang 1,000 units, katumbas niyan ay 10 salesperson. 1,500 units, unknown. Okay? So, unsa ulit siya pagsuwat algebraically. So, ingon ana na siya. 1,000 units over 10 salesperson, no? Units and then 10 salesperson equals, so imo na siyang i-equate, 1,500 units is 2x. Okay? So, basically, ang buhaton na nimo ana is i-cross multiply, no? So, naa kay division both sides, and then i-cross multiply. So, mahimo siyang 1,000 times x. So, mahimo siyang 1,000x equals 10 na 10 times 1,500 units. Okay. So, ang answer ana is 10, 1,000x equals, so 15,000. So, si 15,000 units, okay, so naa kay ingon ana nga equation. So, divide both sides para makuha nimo ang x, divide both sides by 1,000. Okay, so 1,000. So, cancel. So, x na lang mabilin. So, ang imuhang kinahanglan nga tao is 15,000 divided by 1,000. That would be 15 salesperson. Okay. So, we got 15 salesperson for 1,500. So, ang mangyayari niyan is 1,000 is to 10 equals 1,500 is to pila man? 15. So, that is your ratio and proportion.
Next method class is the learning curve. So this is a graphical illustration of the productivity of a worker or workers in types of work done repeatedly. So unsa man ni siyang work or learning curve. So, kini nga theory class, it proposes that a learner's efficiency in tasks improves over time the more the learner perform the task. So, a worker that performs a task for the second time, of course, is faster than when he did it for the first time. Workers becomes more efficient as he learns. So, this change in the productivity ratio will have an effect in the forecasting of manpower demand. So, tanawan ninyo ang figure class. An example, ang productivity sa mga sa empleyado, no? Units of achieved work, kintahay example ni siya sa typing job. So, if imo tan-awan ang units of practice in days and ang units of words per minute. So, nagtigkataas ang units of words per minute as the number of practice per days increases. That is the learning curve theory. In short, ang tao, ang usa ka tao, mas nagtigkapas pa siya the second time nga i-perform ang usa ka task. So, that's why diri pod sa learning curve theory nato mai-associate ang additional cost ug taas ang imong turnover rate. Kay ngano man, kay kada bag-ong empleyado, gamay pa ang iyang productivity ratio. So, the time nga nisod pa siya, di pa siya ingon ana kapaspas. So, that is for the theory of learning curve. So, tanawan ninyo, nagtig kataas sa first day, ang iyahang kayang ma-type is 20 words per minute ra. Second day, nga rito sa second day, ang kaya na niya is like 25. Third day, 30 minutes, 30 words per minute na. Fourth day, abot na siya og 38, like 35 ka pin. Fifth day, 40 words per minute. No? Nagtigapaspas. Until such time nga, ang iyahang per minute nga words is steady na. No? Because naapoy limitations ang capacity sa usa ka tawo. That is for the learning curve theory. Alright. So, there are also complex mathematical methods class. The first one that I will introduce is the multiple regression analysis or the MRA. So this attempts to assess the relationship between dependent variable and two more independent variables. So example nito class, unsa ang relationship sa manpower because we are talking about human resource management. So unsa ang relationship sa manpower and sales, no? So, there are different type of relationships. First could be positive relationship and negative relationship. Si positive relationship class, ibig sabihin, one of the variable increases, the other variable also increases. Ang negative relationship class, this means as the level of the first variable decreases, the level of the second variable increases. So, magkabaliktad lang. One example is increase in the number of sales and the number of sales force. So, manpower and sales. So, naa sila'y positive relationship. Nagkataas ang imuhang sales, ana nga company. So, nagtaas po ang imuhang demand for manpower. So, that could be your basis for hiring. One example of negative relationship is halimbawa, you are doing, again, dressed chicken. So, the increase in the number of volumes, of course, sa imuhang production, it will need automated production na. Because according sa studies, according sa feasibility of it, mas wais jud ang automated kaysa manual plucking, no? Sa dressing of chicken. Thus, this lowers the number of employees. Therefore, as the number or as the volume of your production increases, the number of employees may decrease. This is relative to the machine or the technology. That's why ganina sa ato ang question, technology ang number one nga ato ang basis sa ato ang manpower. So next class is the linear programming. So, si linear programming class, this determines optimal staffing levels given a set of constraints such as limited budget for wage and salaries, minimum and maximum ratios between various kinds of jobs, or minimum or maximum output figures. So, unsa man ni siyang linear programming? You can use Excel QM. So, si Excel QM usa na siya ka application nga mo determine ana nga mga maximum and minimum ratios, no? This technique has been very useful for guiding quantitative decision making in business planning. Kining Excel QM, if imo na siyang i-install, so mag-open ka og Excel, na ay mo gawas nga murag Excel QM diha na. If mo inyo makita ng tab, Excel QM ang naka-click. And then if imo nang i-click ang Excel QM nga tab, kana makita na nimo ang by chapter and alphabetical. Diha nimo makita-an ug unsa mga mathematical models ang pwede nimo apply or pwede nimo ma-compute automatically. So we can also use a spreadsheet. So kang linear programming, I will give you an example. This is how it works. Example, si Beaver Creek Pottery Company is making two products. Si bowl and si mug. However, ang profit per unit is 40 pesos kang bowl, 50 pesos kang mug. And then, you have a target. Ang imong target, pila ka buok ang imuhang i-manufacture given these constraints nga maura niyang available resources. And then, ang imong target is to maximize the profit. So, Z is your profit. And then, that 40 is your profit per sa bowl and 50 para sa mug. Pila ka buok mug and pila ka buok bowl ang imuhang himuon given these constraints. If your labor is 1 hour per unit para sa bowl, and then sa mug is 2 hour per unit. Sa clay, ang imuhang need nga raw material is 4 pounds per unit and then 3 pounds per unit para naman sa imuhang mug. And then, ang imong usage is 40 and 120 ang imuhang maximum sa usa ka adlaw, no, na usage. Sa to pa mauna ang imuhang capacity lang nga pwedeng himuon. So, mo na siya ang constraint. Pila ka buok hours, so you are limited to 40 hours per unit. So that is equivalent to 5 persons. If a person has 8 hours per day, so mo nang imong constraint. And then for your clay, meron ka lang 120 clay, mo nang imong availability. So you are limited to this constraint. So sa imuhang labor, pila ka buok ang imuhang gastuhon nga labor hour sa mug and sa bowl. And then, same as with the clay, 4 para sa mug, para sa bowl, and 3 para sa mug. Maura na ang amount of clay needed per material, per object. So, pila ka buok ang imong himuon nga mug o clay. Given nga, maximum og 40 para sa labor hour og 120 lang sa clay. So, mo na ang imuhang constraints. Pila ang imuhang need himuon nga ingon ana para ma-achieve ang maximum profit. So, that's how you use that application. Mao na siya ang atong linear programming. After forecasting the demand of human resource for a specific planning period, the supply available must also be determined. The discrepancy between supply and demand will be the basis for recruitment and training. So,
at this juncture, let us enumerate the sources of human resources. As mentioned, there are two sources of HR, the external and internal. So the factors that must be considered in analyzing supply include the quality of available manpower, as well as its characteristics such as abilities, interests, and work experience of the human resources. So for internal sources, these are those that indicate the availability of manpower within the organization. So the main task is to identify which current employees are most likely be qualified for future openings. Then for our external sources, these are those that indicate the availability of manpower in the labor market. Okay, so what are the steps necessary in determining the supply of manpower within the organization? So of course, as we have discussed, supply must meet demand. So first is the skill inventory. Skill inventory includes the names, certain characteristics, and skills of the people working for the organization. So it is listed here in the skills inventory. Another is the management inventory. So this is a specialized, expanded form of skills inventory for an organization's current management team. So the management inventory contains brief assessments of the manager's performance, strengths and weaknesses, and his potential promotion to a higher position. And lastly, anticipating changes in personnel. Employees may be promoted or transferred or demoted, retired, they may resign or die.
So in case or in any of these cases, their possessions will be vacant, no? And may cause disruption. Okay, 5% na lang ko. So it may cause disruption in the services the organization which the organizations provide. So to minimize this, if not totally eliminate or at least minimize, the HR planner must install some means to participate any changes in the personnel. That is when the programs or HR programs comes in. So the HR team of an organization, of course, is confronted with the possibilities of manpower shortage and surplus. So mauni ang atong challenges. So, and also concerns for managerial succession. So, under any of these circumstances, the organization may be affected. Henceforth, it must be considered by the human resource planner, or the human resource program must include these contingency plans. So, in case of shortages, there must be recruitment, no, from external sources. So these are the means which we could do in terms or in cases of shortages. So pwede ta mo recruit from external sources, then encourage retirees to postpone retirement. Pwede sad ta mo rehire of retired employees. We could also introduce remedies to reduce turnover. So, daghay remedies. Example, usa sa mga problems nila kay wala sila 13-month pay or like to give them somewhat pahalipay, you may give them like ham during Christmas season or bonuses or additional upon increase in their output, no? So pwedeng na ay mga recognition. So that those are remedies para ma-reduce ang turnover or ang pagkawa sa imong mga empleyado. You can do also subcontracting. So si subcontracting, this includes subcontractors. In this case, mo kontrata ka og laing group of people to do a certain job. It's like na ay contractor, no? They will do a service for your organization. Para di na ka need mo hire og employees. And hiring temporary workers. So for VSU's case, they are hiring part-time instructors. So that is an example of doing how will they compensate the lack of employees with the budget or with the given budget. So hiring temporary workers. So diha mo sud ang no employer-employee relationship, no? Kanang mga job orders. So, planning for surplus. So, what will you do upon surplus? So, there are times when a forthcoming condition of manpower surplus is forecasted through human resource planning. So, this means that there will be more employees than available work in the organization. So, if this is the case, management must prepare a plan to reduce supply. So, the following could be exercised. So, what are these? First is adapt attrition policy. So, this means no new recruit will be made to replace the number of those who retired. The advantages to this option includes no additional expenses attributed to hiring or rehiring. So it does not pose a negative effect on the company's reputation as a fair employer kay di man ka magtangtang sa attrition policy. So you can offer early retirement incentives. So upon computation, unsay mas mo benefit sa company, magpadayon ka og kanang sweldo sa existing nga mga sobra nga mga workforce, or you offer an early retirement incentives. So, bulk nga kwarta nga bayad or magbinayad kag inadlaw, no? So, that is an example of the incentives. So, another is the transfer or transferring of some employees from units with manpower surplus to units with manpower shortage. So, possible to if the employees in a certain unit is knowledgeable on the other unit. So, mahitabo ni. So, this is one of the programs nga buhaton pud sa uban nga mga HR. Ang ilang buhaton sa ilahang manpower, ilabutangan og rotation, no?
mag-rotational sila sa position, one of the benefit of this is that hindi magsasawa yung mga empleyado sa routinary or sa habits or sa routine everyday na balik-balik nila nga trabaho na ibagong trabaho silang makatunan. And as an advantage also in terms of na ay mga turnover, taas ang turnover nimo, na kay makuot nga mga empleyado nga knowledgeable and skilled na sa PICAS unit. So that is for the third. And for the fourth, you can schedule employees for training during slack periods or kanang mga period nga walay gibuhat ang empleyado. You can schedule them for training. However, during these times, usually applicable ni sa mga companies nga seasonal ang ilahang production. And lastly, the laying off of excess employees. So this could be the last resort na to ha, because of course, at least attractive jud ni siya kay ma-affected man ang economic well-being of these separated employees. So laying off may be prevented if an effective HR is undertaken, or HRP, or human resource planning is undertaken, like mag-cost cutting. No, that's for our surplus. Alright, so another thing, last but not the least, we must consider managerial succession planning. So, succession meaning na ay musunod sa usa ka posisyon nga na vacant. So, categorize managerial jobs according to priority. So, proper attention could be directed where it is needed. So, importante nga ma-determine ang mga positions na possible nga ang usa ka position is ma-vacant. Especially mga importante nga mga positions, dapat unsa nga mga positions ang priority nga dili mawad-an og tao. So, ima na siyang studyhan. And identify candidates with high potential para mahibaw-an if in case this position will be vacant, kinsa ang possible nga musunod. That is succession, no? Musunod. Plan development activities for candidates, or ang mga naa sa ilawom, how will they become qualified for that certain position. So, bisag sa example sa VSU, they have programs nga existing employees could take doctoral programs, no, or postdoctoral nga mga schools. So one of the program na siya, development activities para sa mga candidates. And number 4, identify viable near-term replacements for important position. So you can identify og insay mga possible nga mo replace for that important position. That is all for today. Thank you so much for your presence. Feel free to message me and have a nice day.